My name is Kobus and I'm the General Manager here at Dalby Biorefinery in Dalby. The Dalby plant was built in Dalby specifically for the reason of the abundance of sorghum in the area. The plant was commissioned in December 2008, and it is the first and the only sorghum plant in Australia at this stage. The advantages of using sorghum is cheaper than corn in Australia. If we run at about 50% of production, in a month's time we will use between 7,000 and 10,000 tonnes of sorghum. From a tonne of sorghum, we make between 375 litres to 395 litres ethanol.
Ethanol production is a complex process. Primarily what we do, we buy a sorghum. We buy a sorghum for one reason, and that reason is starch. And we convert starch into a glucose, and glucose we convert into ethanol. Unfortunately, there are a lot of steps involved from going from raw sorghum to just making ethanol inside the fermentation. Once we buy the sorghum, the first thing we do is we run through that to the quality standard of our sorghum, because it's very interesting to know how much starch you're getting out from the sorghum. Once we finish this test, that goes into the silo. So if you look at it, there are a couple of silos here, and each silos are holding 1,200 tonnes. Once we store the sorghum in the silos, then it goes into the process. Now what we do, we transfer that sorghum via different conveyors inside the grinding section. We do a grinding of the sorghum, and we follow a certain criteria that how much sorghum needs to be going into the powder form. So we achieve that by using the hammer mill, and we convert that sorghum into a powder form. Once that converts into the powder form, what we do, we mix that with the water. The main reason we mix it with the water is to actually hydrolyze the starch. That's why we actually put the 85-degree water inside the tank to pretty much kill the bacteria that comes with the sorghum. And at the same time, we hydrolyze the starch.
The water that we use is all recycled water that we get from the council, and then we clean the water up through our reverse osmosis plant, and we use it in the system, in the process.
So now we went from a hydrolysis process to enzymatic process. We use two enzymes in order to convert that starch into a simpler form of glucose, and then it goes into the fermentation process. We have a glucose, and what we do, we add the yeast with the fermentation, and yeast convert glucose into CO2 and ethanol. So now we have a fermentation which has alcohol, which we call ethanol, and the rest of the things that remain or comes out from the sorghum, which is the protein, fiber, fat. It's all sitting in a dissolved form in the fermentation, and the husk and the rest of them which is in a suspended solid. This fermenter, we take it into the distillation, where we distill the fermenter and convert that into a pure alcohol. And we recover the alcohol from there at 93% strength. That alcohol, we put it through a dehydration, where we actually take a water molecule out from ethanol and convert into 100% pure alcohol. The rest of the product that comes out from the distillation, that we run through the decanters, where we convert that two products into two byproduct, which one we call as a WDGS and the syrup. WDGS is a simpler form. The complex form is wet distiller grain with a soluble. And syrup is just the dissolved solid that we recover from the decanter, that we concentrate from 10% solid to 30% solid in evaporation by using the waste energy that generated into the plant or into the distillation unit.
We have just installed a dryer which dry the product, because the wet cake shelf life is about 7 days, and the dryer reduces the water content from 68% to 10%. We used 1,200 gigajoules of gas a day, 1 million liters of water a day, 2,500 kilowatt of electricity a day. In Australia, we haven't actually latched on to the importance of the ethanol. The importance of it is a clean burning and is better for the environment, it's better for people. Efficiency in the motor vehicle, if you look at it, it is 95 octane, where a normal ULP is 91 octane. So you get a better performance out of it. On the price basis and usage, it comes out over a long period, it's about on par.